We stopped here on verse 25. These are all Trishtups. The whole, mainly the whole 11th chapter is written in Trishtup verse, which is 11 syllabic meter, which is much longer, bigger than 8 syllabic pada of Anushtup or Shloka. So, Danshtra Karalani Chate Mukhani Drishtva Kalanalan Samnibhani Disho na jane na labhe cha sharma prasida devesha jagannivasa. So he continues to see this terrible form of the divine. Danshtra, these are the tasks. Karalani, the tasks terrible of destruction, Chate Mukhani, and your faces and mouths terrible with many tasks of destruction. Thy faces like the fires of death and time, Drishtvaiva Kala Anala Samnibhani, so faces shining and burning with fires and tasks. Dishona Jane, I do not recognize the directions of the space. Nalabhecha Sharma, don't get the sense of protection or peace. Prasida Devesha, be merciful, O Lord of gods, Jagannivasa, O refuge of the worlds. Amicha Tvam, Dhritarashtrasya putrach, and these Dhritarashtra, sons of Dhritarashtra, Sarve Saha, Saha Eva, Avanipala Sandhaich, with all the kings together, Bhishma, Drona, Sutaputra, Sutaputra is Karna, Tathasau, and this Saha Asmadiyaich Api Yodha Mukhyach, and with all our major warriors or generals, Vaktrani Te, to your mouths or to your jaws, let us say, Tvaramana Vishanti, speeding up, they enter into your mouth, or mouths, many jaws. I don't know how Sherbindo. Are hastening into thy tasked and terrible jaws. That's how he translates. Vaktrani te tvaramana vishanti. Tvaramana, speeding up, hastily enter vishanti, your jaws. Danshtrakaralani bhayanakani. Your terrible tasks open and Ke cheat, some vilagnach are stuck dashanan tareshu, among in between the teeth they are stuck. They're trying to get out of the between the teeth. Such a kind of picture. Samdrishyante, they are seen, churnitaich, uttamangaich, with churnita, with a smashed, or let us say broken, crushed, and bleeding heads. Uttama angaich, with upper parts of the body are smashed between the teeth. Yatha nadi nam bahavo ambuvegach, as the rivers which are rushing towards the sea, samudram eva bhimukha dravanti, enter into the sea, facing the sea. Tatha tavami nara loka virach, all the heroes of this world, yours. Vishanti Vaktrani, enter into your jaws. Abhi Vijvalanti, burning. Yatha pradiptam jvalanam patangaha, as the patangas, as the moth in the night, enters or rushes towards the burning flame. Vishanti nashaya, as they enter to be destroyed, to be killed. Samriddha vega, speeding up, so to say, with increasing speed, literally. Tathaiva nashaya, thus for their destruction, Vishanti lokah, the worlds are entering, Tavapi vaktrani, your jaws, your mouths. Samriddha vegah, speeding up with increasing speed. This increasing speed is an interesting thing, for both is mentioned. So they are not delaying it, they are increasing speed to be destroyed. They want it. They're kind of drawn as if to the center of gravitation. You know? They fall into the center of gravitation. Lelihya se grasamanach samantal lokan samagran vadanaich jvaladbih, and you leak them up, gobbling all the worlds, vadanaihi, with your mouth burning. Tejobhih apurya jagat samagram bhasach tava ugrach pratapanti Vishnu. And with your burning, with your flames, you are filling the whole world, because your flames are terrible, burning, O Vishnu. And then there is interesting turn. Akyahi me, ko bhavan ugrarupach. Tell me, who are you who has this terrible form? Namostute, may there be, what do you call it? Salutation to thee, or surrender to you. Devavara prasida, O best of the gods, be merciful. Prasida. Turn thy heart to grace. I've been found the way to say it. Be merciful, turn to thy heart to grace. So nice. Vijnatum ichchami. I want to distinguish or discern. Bhavantamadhyam, your first form, or your original being. You as from the very beginning. Nahi prajanami tava pravrittim. I do not recognize your pravritti, your intention. I do not know what you want, or your workings, as Sri Aurobindo translates. And then there is an answer from Vishnu. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Kalosmi Lokakshaya Krit Pravriddhah Lokan Samahartum Iha Pravrittah. Pravriddhah, these are the words, interesting. Rite pitva nabhavishyanti sarve yevasthitav pratyanikeshu yodhah. So I am the time, Lokakshaya Krit, destroying the worlds, Pravriddhah, grown to destroy the worlds. I want to see how Sri Aurobindo, destroyer of the world, arisen a huge statute from the destruction of the nations. Wow. Lokan samahartum iha pravrittah, ready to take away all the lokas, carry them away. Rite apitva, but not you, only not you. Nabhavishyanti sarve, all will be not here. Yevastitach, those who came together, Pratyanikeshu Yodhach, in the opposite armies, the fighters, they will all disappear except you. You will be saved. That's what he says to you. I do not know how Sri Aurobindo, even without thee, all, this is how Sri Aurobindo translates. He translates it different. All these warriors shall be not, who are ranked in the opposite armies. So even without thee, that's so nice. He found another interpretation. I'm translating except you, yeah. So sparing you, all that will be destroyed. He translates even without you, they will be destroyed. So even if you leave the battlefield, I will still fulfill my pravritti, my intention to destroy them. Sri Aurobindo found the right way to translate it. Tasmat tvam uttishta, therefore rise, yasho labhasva, and get the glory. Jitva shatrun, having conquered the enemies. Bhunkshva rajyam samriddham, enjoy the kingdom grown or prosperous. Maya evaite nihitach purvameva. Nimitta matram bhava Savyasachi. Or Savyasachi is the name of Arjuna. Be my instrument, because by me they are already killed before. All are killed by me before. Be my instrument only. Dronam cha bhishmam cha jayadratham cha Karnam, Tathanyan, Apiyodhaviran, Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, and Karna, and other warriors and heroes. Maya Hatan, by me killed. Tvam Jahi, you kill. Mavyathishtha, don't tremble, don't be scared. Yudhyasva Jetasi, fight, because you are the victor. Rane Sapatnan, in this battle, your adversaries, your enemies, fight them. And then it goes on. But I want to stop here for your comments and observations. It's a huge text was read. So I just, slided through it because it was a lot of kind of one flow of vision of destruction. Sri Aurobindo writes about this so profoundly here. We have to see his commentary. I will read this one, small one. This last cry of Arjuna, reveal yourself, indicates the double intention in the vision. This is the figure of the supreme and universal being. This is he who forever creates. For Brahman, the creator is one of the Godheads seen in his body. When he saw the Brahman, the creator there. This is he who keeps the world always in existence, for he is the guardian of the eternal laws, but who is always too destroying in order that he may new create, who is time, who is death, who is Rudra, the dancer of the calm and awful dance, who is Kali with her garland of skulls, trampling naked in battle, and flecked with the blood of the slaughtered titans, who is the cyclone and the fire and the earthquake and pain and famine and revolution and ruin and the swallowing ocean. And it is this last aspect of him which he puts forward at the moment. It is an aspect from which the mind in man willingly turns away, and ostrich-like hides its head, so that perchance not seeing, it may not be seen by the terrible. This is a very, very psychological explanation why we are shrinking from the terrible, because we hope not to be seen by the terrible and not to become part of this destruction. The weakness of the human heart wants only fair and comforting truths, or in their absence, pleasant fables. Give me something pleasant with good outcome at the end. It will not have the truth in its entirety, because there is much that is that is not clear, pleasant and comfortable, but hard to understand and harder to bear. To put away the responsibility for all that seems to us evil or terrible on the shoulders of a semi-omnipotent devil, or to put it aside as a part of nature, making an unbridgeable opposition between world nature and God nature, as if nature were independent of God, or to throw the responsibility on man and his sins. This is simple, very Christian, as if he had a preponderant voice in the making of this world, or could create anything against the will of God, are clumsily comfortable devices in which the religious thought of India has never taken refuge. Courage. Courage to face the reality. We never had enough courage to face the God in all his manifestations. We are always shrinking. We are always choosing the good one against the bad one. We have to look courageously in the face of the reality and see that it is God and none else who has made this world in his being, and that so he has made it. The torment of the couch of pain and evil on which we are wrecked is his touch as much as happiness and sweetness and pleasure. The discords of the worlds are God's discords, and it is only by accepting and proceeding through them that we can arrive at the greater concords of this supreme harmony, the summits and thrilled vastnesses of his transcendent and his cosmic Ananda. Fantastic, yeah? This is something which we have to learn from the Gita. Why this terrible fight? And I was so moved by this. I was preparing myself, so I was thinking, what should we speak about this? So I looked into Savitri. Yeah, please make your comments, your observations, and then we will come to Savitri. It would be nice if we could discuss.
Yeah, this chapter has always struck me as a wonderful lesson in the relativity of human perception. I just came across a quote from Anais Nin. I think she's a Russian writer. She said, "We do not see the world as it is, we see the world as we are." And it's so clear that as long as Arjuna is thinking of himself as an entirely independent, separate creature. That the flaming, ever-changing, dynamic reality of the divine is just terrifying.
Of course.
And it's so funny because, we have such romantic, emotional ideas of God and the divine. I think, oh, it's so wonderful. Wouldn't it be great if I could see God? Well, I'm never going to see God. God has little me. Seeing God's the death of me.
Now he saw God, and finally he will be begging then, please stop this,
Right.
because it would be too much for him to see the God in all his totality. Yes, it's profound. It's actually that which is stopping us. That's why he started with this. But you are simply afraid. It's fear which entered you, he says to Arjuna at the beginning. Arjuna tried to philosophically justify that he doesn't want to be part of this massacre. He wants only good and good and good. But in the core of his being, it's a fear. It's a
Oh,
terrified being.
I had another thought on that line. I never met any fundamentalist Christians in New York. I never knew that they were that way in New York City. When I moved down south, they're everywhere. And so I remember people would say to me, oh, this terrible thing happened. How could God do that to me? So I'd say, you've learned that God's omnipresent, right? Yeah. So he's in hell, he's everywhere. Yeah, I know, but he wouldn't do that. He's only good. And no matter how many times you say it, it's like this clinging to I'm good, and everything bad is done by something bad. So it's this it's very common down here, I have to say, as a psychologist, this black and white thinking is just pervasive. And anything that challenges the black and white thinking, you want to kill because it threatens you. And the Gita seems to teach this lesson. You cannot live in a black and white mentality. It doesn't work.
There is something even more which I kind of learned from this, from myself. I thought, okay, bad is there, right? I should not be afraid, otherwise I would not see the divine. Yes, I should not be. I should courageously face it. But bad is bad still. Yeah, it cannot be good. It cannot be something I should kind of deal with, kind of justify. And then, and the strange thing is that the divine is beyond good and bad altogether. Yeah? It's neither good or bad, or one of them against each other or in opposition to. So it is neither good nor bad, but both of them and something more than them. And so in order to recognize him, to find him, we need to accept these both, yeah, as a part of our given situation, which is quite a task. It requires a huge courage to face the divine. That's what Mother says. You know, these 8 qualities which we studied, from sincerity to courage. Sincerity, humility, gratitude, perseverance, aspiration, receptivity, and courage. These are, oh, sorry, I missed one. Receptivity, progress, and courage. Progress is before courage. These 8 qualities are towards the divine. We need to have courage to face the divine, to face the truth, whatever it may be. That's what Mother says. Are you ready to face the truth, whatever it may be? This is something. Then we are ready to meet the divine.
The Buddhists have a phrase, take adversity as the path. You welcome it because it's your teacher.
Right. Yes. There was this Rerich, who created Agni Yoga, and he says, "Did you learn to welcome the obstacles?" Because the obstacles are actually the paths. They are showing you where you have to go, where you have to apply your consciousness. They are just indicators. They're not to obstruct you, they're just to lead you on the way. But yeah, so I looked into this Savitri. If somebody wants to share these some ideas, or yeah, please go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Good. So I think last week I heard you invite um, our engagement in how does the Gita apply to the world condition of now. Did you say that?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Wow.
So that to me has been an inquiry for about 2 years, and like a year ago, we sent out an email or a request to everyone to join us in center field, and Siegfried was the only one that responded. So this is a real important conversation for me, and it started back with the vax no vax conversation, and because it seems like we can read the Gita and it's wonderful, and we can have insights, but in the true application of it, am I willing to take someone else's life because of what I believe? And if everything has a right that exists has a right to be, then what is my interpretation of good and evil? And so therefore, how do I choose that? And does it really matter? Another question, does it really matter what I choose? Or I'm kind of on that place where I really don't want that evil to see me. So I kind of do what I want to do, regardless of whatever the government says or whatever the social condition says. I'm going to do what I'm going to do because I don't feel that laws are just. Whether we come down on vax or no vax, or abortion or no abortion, or Ukraine and Russia or NATO, these are all divisive. To me, they're trying to divide us, and from a singularity into a duality type of thinking. And so the way that I reconcile that for myself is that I stand in my own truth, which whatever that is, and I don't really try to impose that upon anyone else, because I've had deep conversations with others, and I know that in their heart, they absolutely know and believe that they're true, 100%. Whether they're Republican or Democrat or vax or no vax or abortion or no abortion or Russia or Ukraine, people have their own opinion, and that opinion lives in their heart. So who am I to judge if that's good or evil and then take a stand? So my position is stand within my own self and my own truth. So I find that I am so grateful to be engaged in this group with everyone studying the Gita at this particular time in human history. And so I'd love to hear anyone else's comments about that, or even a comment about the position that I take about I'm going to do what I'm going to do, regardless if someone else judges it good or bad, or right or wrong, or moral or immoral. That's just someone else's opinion. And so please, that's where I stand in it.
I think that you've already grown up enough to care about what you think. But if you could also find, I think about myself, I don't really change my opinion easily if it is based on some deeper sense or perception. There is a deeper perception, but there are so many opinions on the surface, that they are all brought to you by half information, by half knowledge, by all that which you cannot totally trust. You can trust your heart, but you cannot trust the opinion, and especially these questions, political questions or abortion or whatever. You may have some opinion, but I am not sure, really, truly speaking, the divine will in it. Yes, so but to go deeper and to find the truth in every opinion, this would be a very useful exercise, I think. because there is truth in everyone somewhere. Maybe it's hidden, maybe it's packed in this kind of misunderstanding, or in wrong language, or in some political wrong idea. But there is a need of the person to express something, and he took that motivation or that formation to express himself, and that was wrong. But the need to express the truth was true. So if we find it behind all that, kind of camouflaged truth, that grain of truth, then we can support the person and we can be free from judgment. We can be positive to everyone.
Thank you. My thoughts. Yes, thank you.
Yes, Jan, yes.
I want to say something about that because I had this recent time, the last days, I working in the idea of the consciousness. No, what I'm conscious of, what, and my experience is when I have opinion, or I'm making a judgment, or I think my truth is my truth and outside is another interpretation of the truth. When I'm in this position, I'm making a division, a ditty. Remember the word, Vladimir? When I'm making these divisions, I have my own truth, the world is outside. I'm starting to make my own mistakes because I'm getting my narrow point of view. When I see a problem, I'm making a division again. I'm making a division in my consciousness because I have an interpretation. This is a problem. For another person, it's not a problem. It's maybe a challenging situation or nothing at all. When I decide this is a problem, I'm making a division. I'm in here and the problem is outside. And when I'm in another position, like I'm full conscious of my experience, there is no divisions. And when I catch this experience to be really conscious of what I'm conscious, then I feel I'm Brahman. The one who can manifest, because what I'm conscious of is a reality for me. It's a real existence for me. I am conscious of is making the reality. And if I'm conscious of the war or the problems or the politicians' suggestions to manipulate the population, I'm doing this work, and this is real for me. I'm feeding this kind of position and way of thinking.
Yeah, you make it real. Yeah, you make it real.
I make it real. I make it real again.
Yeah.
Then I decide. I have the freedom to be conscious of what I want to be conscious, and this is how I create my present moment and my life, my feelings, my vital flowing, and I think it's a question. There is a concept in psychology, call it the self context, the context. When you feel you are the context. If I want to know how I or what I'm thinking of, I only have to watch the context, because my interpretation of the context is what I'm conscious of. And the context and my conscience is the same. Is the same. I don't know if I have the enough capacity to communicate this in this language.
This is profound. What you speak of, this kind of determination of our context as we are, who we are, what we have to be, how we have to react, and so on. But truly speaking, I had always this question: why can't we just watch any movie or read any book? Yeah, why Why person who is entangled or engaged in some particular activity cannot easily get out of that activity? Why can't he just pack and leave? Go somewhere, walk the path into the mountains, away from everyone, without any reasoning, without any conditioning, without any cause and effect, without leaving cause and effect behind. Why can't we step out of this cause and effect context? This was always, from my childhood, was the question: how come person cannot get out? So simple. Just stop it. Stop in the middle of what you're doing. Pack your things or leave your things behind and leave. Go. Go into another life. Be another person. Take another name. Learn another language. Why not? Why not? This is the big question. Yeah? So we are so bound to what we are and what we are used to, and the chitta and reaction and this and that. This is a big, profound question. Yeah.
My answer for that question, my own opinion for that question, is when you realize you are Brahman, then you can choose your path.
Yeah. By the
and
way,
your
when
vision, and what do you want to focus your attention? You are free to focus your attention in whatever the perspective you want to choose.
Absolutely. When I was in Soviet Union, I even wanted to be put into jail, into this, single compartment where I could have my time finally, because in jail you could be free finally, totally free from all those things which are determining you in the society. Even I had a feeling, I remember when it first came, that I had a feeling that I am ready just to walk away anywhere, doesn't matter where, in that direction, in this direction, it matters not. Yeah, because I am already here. So this that you are already there is much more than any context which can be created around you. Yeah, this is a beautiful idea what you brought in. Thank you. Jan, you wanted to say something, please. We kind of muddled up your thoughts, most probably.
No, I was just going to say that in questions and answers, Mother is, in one of them, I don't remember which one, she was talking about war and how, you can't really side with anybody because there's good and there's bad in both sides. But that, the decisions that she and Sri Aurobindo make have to do with how it affects, how one side or the other prevailing will affect the evolution. And that's her.
Right, absolutely. This is the only side we should take. We can't take any other side. We cannot take side of Ukrainians if they are against evolution of consciousness. Yes, we cannot help them and thinking that they are right, even if there is a war which is very unjust war against them. But if they are the obstacle in evolution, then most probably we should look into it. Yeah, but it's just the opposite. We see the obstacle where it comes with the claim of the totalitarian power over other people, deciding for them what they should be, how they will live, and so on. So in a way, it's quite obvious that democracy has its right, has its truth, especially in the coming of the subjective age. And even then, I wanted to say, even there, I was looking for something positive from the Russian side. So it's very difficult to find something positive there. But I have to find that grain of truth, because then I understand how everything is packed in their mind, how the mind is functioning. And I found, and it's quite interesting discovery in a way. Maybe I already spoke about this in this group or not. They are looking for human unity.
Yeah.
But they neglected the middle part of the national identity. This is even Sri Aurobindo supported the Russian Revolution, by the way, because of one work which Lenin wrote, which was called the self-determination of nations, the right for self-determination of nations. So nations can define, can decide, determine themselves what they want to be. Because of that work, Sri Aurobindo read that work, which is very rare. It was never followed by Soviet Union. Yes, it was just the opposite, total domination over nations. But reading that work, he supported Russian Revolution, because if that would be true, then the nations could be formed and they could build the human unity in a way, in the bigger unity as Russian Federation. Russian Federation has more than 22 different republics, different peoples inside. Can you imagine? 22 different languages, different cultures, different races. There are more than 100 peoples live in a Russian Federation, and they are all neglected. They are all oppressed by one something dominating culture, which is very weird, strange in a way, because it doesn't have its own place. It doesn't have its own republic even. There is no Russian Republic within those republics. It's everywhere. It's like something which spread without national identity. And if I would not read Sri Aurobindo, I would really never understand this problem, dilemma. But Sri Aurobindo speaks about 3 steps of Vishnu. Yes, first step is the unity within the family, love within the family, mother's love, which is established in nature very powerfully among animals, human beings, And then family is not enough. You have to go beyond. Where would you go? How can you embrace bigger body of human beings? And that's how the nation souls came into being. They are creating that intimate identity, that psychic can come out not only in loving relations within the family, but beyond family. So this is the first step, nations. The second step of Vishnu is nations. And the third is human unity. So without nations being formed, human unity is impossible. We cannot, as individuals, we are not yet ready to love strangers. We need to exercise it through our nations, through culture, language, history, common, those intimate, very subtle relations through language. Frenchies, they feel that French so much, or the Russians, they feel they're Russian, Ukrainians, they feel Ukrainian language. It's very sweet to them. They can express themselves much better, those intimate relations among themselves. So these are the answer. So Russians jumped into the human unity, kind of overstepping the second step of Vishnu. And that created a disaster.
Are you saying, Vladimir, that consciously they were seeking human unity, or that was what was the force behind?
I think it was brought down to them. It was imposed on them by some higher force as an experiment, very similar to the United States. Actually, it's it's a pot in which everything is boiling, all the nations coming here, and they are losing their identity in the name of individual freedom and creativity and, democracy, whatever you call it. I think it's the most democratic country in the world, United States. There is no national identity. Yeah. So these two great experiments, and notice these two countries are always bumping into each other because they are the experiments of nature. But United States became clever, and they never colonized anyone directly as a territory, only through money, through dollars. They grabbed everyone. But Russia doesn't have dollars, so they want to acquire the land.
There's a phrase from Sri Aurobindo I thought was one of the wisest psychological statements I ever heard. He talked about how we're always engaged in a defense against the infinite. So I was thinking of Russia. I was thinking, you know, okay, so here's an example. As a psychotherapist on the individual level, if a person who's been abused in a relationship comes to me, I want to see their side of view. If a person who's an abuser comes to me, I'm also responsible to see the truth in their, you know. So by any standard of psychiatry, both Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin would be diagnosed as sociopathic narcissists. Now, if I saw them, it's my job to say, what is this need, this compulsive need you have? You know, or that sounds too disrespectful. You know, I'd have to try and understand what is it in them that's seeking this attention. And on the other hand, someone who is interested, this works both for America and Russia. One thing that psychopaths have a genius for is they can see people's need to belong. So the genius, what Putin seems to have done in Russia is to call that need for unity, that need for patriotism. He knows how to, you know, so the Russian people who don't know the truth of Ukraine are seeking for unity. The same way Trump had this genius to know what people need. And since I've come down here to the South, I've met so many people who said, I feel like I don't live in the same country anymore. I grew up in a Christian country where women knew their place and men were men, and now it's gone. And rather than attacking that, I can say, you know, I've talked to some people who've become disabled and who are miserable. And I say, yes, you've lost your identity.
Mhm.
It comes back to the 11th chapter. It's like if you don't have a larger identity, you're
Mhm.
going to resort to fear and hatred and despair.
Mm.
And so the only answer in Russia and Ukraine, United States, and everywhere is that until we find our identity in the truth, we're going to be susceptible
Mhm.
to all this exploitation.
And notice that the major problem of Russia with Ukraine is actually national spirit of Ukraine. They're constantly speaking, they're calling them Nazis, because the nationalism was known to us only as a negative thing through Nazism. And I even believe something very weird, I will tell you, that actually the Lord of Nations who came to Hitler and who was driving Hitler, as we know from Mother's Agenda, this Second World War was the war of this the Lord of Falsehood who possessed Hitler. He called himself the Lord of Nations for the reason he actually distorted the very idea of nationalism. Why? Because this is the second step of Vishnu, which leads to the human unity. And if he can distort it, create kind of distrust to it, then every national uprising will be like something negative. Sri Aurobindo writes about this in the Human Cycle, that the first would be always a distortion by the vital ego and by excessive kind of misunderstanding of this need of the soul to come to the front. And that would push all other forces, and they will take advantage of it. That happened to Hitler and Germany. Germany, highly cultured and philosophical nation, was forming itself and wanting to come to birth, to be born, and then it got hijacked by this vital ego.
Yeah.
And because of that, every nationalism sounds like very negative nowadays. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Nationalist. He's a nationalist. That means something bad. And this is the work of this spirit, of this Second World War.
There was one more thought. There was an article in the Times today by a liberal who lives she mostly writes nature columns in Tennessee. And she said, hey, liberals, move down here. And the comments were full of hatred, ritual. No, the South is horrible. It's all terrible, bigoted people. They should leave and secede. They're not real Americans. And the people in the South say, you liberals are not real Americans. So we have this idea now that there's some concept. The vital ego has grabbed hold of a concept of what a real American is. And we've lost the sense that what America what the soul of America is about transcending those vital differences and recognizing that we're all part of this experiment. It's very hard to tell people that these days.
America is a unique country in a way. It's an unbelievable experiment, you know. First of all, they hijacked something which was, there is still spirit of America here. When I was in New Mexico, you could feel it, yeah. That beautiful vastness, all those mountains. You could feel something is present there, which most probably the Aboriginal the tribes gave up for the Americans to actually to use and to go ahead and to move forward. Maybe that sacrifice was made in nature for the sake of moving forward. I believe so, at least. It's weird to say for me that way, but when I was in New Mexico, these thoughts came to me. It's not an abusive thought, opposite. It's a rather sacrificial. Somebody gives up for somebody else to do it. But what I wanted to say is something else. The rising of the nations and nationalism can be very positive. It is love for your country, love for your culture, for your language. It's a deeper love. It's a psychic love. And it allows the inner being to reach to the surface through these means, yeah? Through language, history, recognition, as it happened in Ukraine, as it happened in any country. In Europe, do you see in Europe how it is happening? If you live in Norway and Sweden do not have border, or France and Germany. Yeah? And still when you cross from France to Germany, you feel immediately the change. Yeah? Oh, this was France and this is Germany. There is no border, but you feel it. Somehow it is inbuilt. They don't need borders because they are already formed as nations. As Sri Aurobindo beautifully describes in Human Cycle. First they grow beyond the borders and then they shrink, fall into their own borders, where they belong. You see that nature where they live, people, they give them names to those mountains, rivers. Their language, people, psychic being are somehow connected to the land and landscape. And history, over layer upon layer, develops certain intimate relations with the soil, with the landscape, with the nature. It's unbelievable. Something very deeply psychological is happening on that land. That's why they are fighting for their land. Why should you fight for your land? Is it really your land? Why Ukrainians are dying for their land? Who told them that it is their land? Just move a little ahead, away from that place, let them keep it if they want more land. You know? No, they are fighting for it because there's some spirit there which is forcing them to do it and give their lives for it. What is this about? It's really a mysterious thing.
But Vladimir, I think what they are saying is so romantic, and maybe there is a natural roots for this kind of idea or feeling or concept. But nowadays, what I can tell you from my point of view in Spain, the greed of the politicians and the corporations here is so extreme, so extreme. We are in what we say the new normality, the new normal way of life after COVID, in this COVID era. The population is going very fast to the poverty. We have the half of the capacity of to be ahead of the expenses every day, every month. We are paying double price of the energy, in electricity, in the fuel, double price from 2 years ago, and the prices are coming up 10% this year, the prices in the supermarket and all of this. You know,
By
the
the way,
situation
what
here,
you're
we are
talking
in the
about,
hands.
yeah, economy. This it's interesting. What are these formations? They're
And the censorship, you know, there is a lot of censor here. There is not independent
absolutely.
scientifics they can
They
talk
are
in mass
not
media.
nationalistic. They are
So
not national
censored.
formations. They are above national formations. Economy
But
first.
what I want to say,
No, yeah,
what
yeah,
I
yeah.
want to say is the idea is so romantic, and maybe it was happening before, but now, if we have someone is coming to this country to fight, to have a war, I don't think anyone
You don't
is
know. Please don't say. Nobody thought
offering the
that
life.
Ukraine will fight. United States predicted Ukraine will lose in 3 days. Nobody knows these things. You do not know what will happen to you, because then there will be the spirit coming to you and you will be ready to die for it. That's it.
This I only can speak from my own opinion,
I
but
know.
the
We
the
thought the
greed
same
of
about
the
Ukraine.
yeah, the greed of the politicians and the greed
Greed
of
of the
the
politicians,
capitalists
the
is so
politics,
bigger.
the economy, the capitalism, the religions. These are
Why?
above national formations. They are not psychic formations. They are
Right. And
formations of the
why
future,
you are
of the unity, of the human unity, which are too early appearing. They do not have yet the ground to really exercise themselves. So what we have,
yes, but the experience of the people what I have around me is we are slaves. Now
but I
we are slaves.
understand, yeah, I
Yeah.
understand. I'm just
And
trying to just,
when you ask for freedom is when you accept you are a slave. And then maybe you can be a slave of Ukrainian politician, Russian politician, European politician, but it's the greed, you know, the greed they have, the psychopathy, the psychopaths of we have in the power, they take the power very
so
hard
what is
because
your
they are used to
solution?
do that.
What is your knowledge about it? What do you propose looking at this situation? Where the problem
Right.
lies?
Tribes, to making tribes, no state, no nations, tribes. You make your own tribe, you with your friends, with the people are feeling like you. When you feel the synchronicity because you find in a proper place, you can speak from the heart. Tribes, making tribes, yeah, making tribes for survive. This is this is my experience, and this is what is working on
Maybe,
to make your
maybe.
own family.
There's on that note, I know we're almost done. The Sarvodaya movement in Sri Lanka, they
Mm.
organized over 35,000 groups, and the neighborhoods were all sort of tribal size, like 150, 200 people. But it was both, and Sri Aurobindo talks about this, the end of the ideal of human unity, to have local, spontaneously emerging, small, spontaneous, organic regions, but it's connected on the whole planet. So you have both. But that's in the future.
Interesting, yeah.
Vladimir,
Yes.
you were going to read something from Savitri?
Right. I'm not sure about the time. The time is 7 o'clock, but this passage from Savitri, um, well, one word about this, that I always thought that we move from bad to good, and at the end it will be only good, only the divine everywhere, only pleasant, only the bliss. There will be no suffering, there will be no war, there will be no discordance, no clash, no pain. Um, um, but when I read the last passage, when the Lord gives the gifts to Savitri, and then I understood this is totally wrong, altogether. Everything will be there. Everything will continue to be there. Only we will realize the divine in all this discordance. I will project it, if you don't mind. You will see the passage. I read it today. This is page 700. Better to read it from a little bit before, but because of lack of time. How the divine is, maybe I will start. O Son Word, thou shalt raise the earth soul to light and bring down God into the lives of man. This is the divine speaking to Savitri after bestowing all the boons upon her. Yeah? Earth shall be my work chamber and my house, my garden of life, to plant a seed divine, and so on, and so on. And now we are coming to some passage which explains the pain and the rest. Assailed by my infinitudes above, and quivering in the immensities below, pursued by me through my mind's wall-less vast, oceanic with the surges of my life, a swimmer lost between two leaping seas by my outer pains and inner sweetnesses, finding my joy in my opposite mysteries, thou shalt respond to me from every nerve. This we don't expect. So, Siegfried, the answer to your pain is find the divine. Find him in every pain, in every nerve, in every response of pain. There he is hiding there. A vision shall compel thy coursing breath. Thy heart shall drive thee on the wheel of works, thy mind shall urge thee through the flames of thought to meet me in the abyss and on the heights, to feel me in the tempest and the calm, and love me in the noble and the vile, in beautiful things and terrible desire. And it goes on. The pains of hell shall be to thee my kiss. This is the Lord speaking to Savitri. The pains of hell shall be to thee my kiss. The flowers of heaven persuade thee with my touch. The fierce masks shall my attractions bring. And I was today reading, and I was totally uplifted. We have to have a courage to meet the divine and to find him everywhere, in every movement, and not trying to arrange in our own ways of thinking that we know something how it should be. Okay, I will stop here because of lack of time. And if you read this passage from 700 onwards, you will find the answers to all what we have to know. And you see, Sri Aurobindo was always like this. I remember his Perseus the Deliverer. You remember Perseus the Deliverer, where Athena comes to Andromeda, and Andromeda is to be given to this monster to be destroyed. And Andromeda asks Athena, what will happen to me? She says, you will be hated in this world and the next, and there will be no love for you in this world or the next. By all these people whom you love, you will be hated. She is so terrified. She says, it's unbearable. How can I be hated by those whom I love, you know? But then she asks, will you be with me? Yeah. to Athena, to the Divine Mother. She says, yes, I will always be with you. And then she says, then I am ready to be given to this monster. I am ready to be hated by all. You remember in Ramayana, Tamil Ramayana, maybe I was already mentioning this. In Tamil Ramayana, before Vishnu in heaven gives different roles to different godheads to play in Rama's story. Yeah? You will be this, you will be that, Hanuman, every god has his own role to play. Vishnu will be Rama, he takes his, and then he says, after distributing all the roles to Apsarasas, to everyone, he says there will be one role which will be most difficult because you will be always hated forever by all. Who can play this role for me? And everybody turns away. I know, nobody wants to even acknowledge the proposition. And then one Apsarasa, one heavenly beautiful woman, says, I will do this for you, my lord. And she became Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi is the greatest bhakta, the most courageous. Who could have thought such deep understanding of things? So we need this hell breathing into our neck, because it helps us to understand the depth of the divine fulfillment. It's not just because it's a mistake. It's something more than that. It's difficult to acknowledge immediately. It takes time. And even now, by saying it, I feel it, but still, I know that it is something in me shrinks totally away from it. Is not ready to receive the divine. Great. Okay, we can stop here for today and meet next time and see what Sri Bhagavan has to say. Krishna is to answer. Okay, I will close with the mantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.